It's the track.
Okay, recording the podcast. It is Wednesday, February the 4th. I am back, as you can probably tell, Shano, in the Mountain State, Colorado. Just back on business.
I'm in God's country in Sydney. A little bit of mix of work and play.
Nice.
Love it over here.
Obviously, the work element is some kind of financial meeting, sponsorship deal for the Track Stitch podcast, the People's Podcast. Is that correct?
It was mentioned.
Good to hear.
Self-dealing, we call it.
So we're obviously, I said we're going early in the week here. You've got Binny's coming over to join you for
Yes.
enjoy the weekend. So we're gonna fire off probably part one of the podcast. Who knows? There might be a part two that I might do later on. Maybe not, but we'll see. But just too much to talk about to skip, Shano. Starting with, I jumped on air, as you saw, with the emergency update after the podcast. We've developed this habit of recording literally within minutes or low hours of all these amazing races going off. And I thought we just had to touch on the New Zealand record over the mile. And my thoughts, I made them pretty clear last week. I'm not going to go over them too much again. 3:48.88 for the young man. Man, have you got anything to add on that?
It's just mind-blowing. It's mind-blowing that he's a Kiwi. I mean, if it was anyone,
I know.
any country, And like there's a stats I put in our chat group, how much quicker he is than all those other prodigies, particularly over 800, which is, as we've talked about, the anaerobic power for the great milers of yesteryear. I think it's unbelievably exciting. That's what it is.
No, I know.
Yeah.
And I said, at the time they didn't have the 1500 meter splits out. So you drew on my knowledge of integral and differential calculus to come up with a prediction. And I came up with, I said on the pod 3:33.37, and it turned out that later on they did come through with the times 3:33.25. So I was only 0.12 of a second out. I'll give myself that one, not too bad. Of note, that is well under the US high school record held by Hobbs Kessler of just make sure I get it right, 3:34.36. So already at 16 years of age, he's blowing Kessler out of the water here. We all know what Hobbs has gone on to do, run 1:43, 3:29, just broke the world indoor record for the 2,000 meters, taking Bekele out of the book. So, man, it is just, like you, your stream cut out, right? You were watching it on the telly, and the stream cut out. And then how did you get? And you didn't see you got the same results the same way I did, right? Just basically by refreshing the screen, and then 3:48.
You sent it to me.
That's right. Yeah, 3:48 popped up. I was just like, unbelievable. Anyway, so looking forward, I don't know if we're jumping the shark here or letting anything out of the bag, but rumors abound. We are the People's Podcast. People are always informing us, keeping us in the loop of what's going on. We do know for a fact that Sam is going to race Cole Hocker, the Olympic 1,500 meter champion, the world 5,000 meter champion, at the Sound running meet, which is coming up in 2 weeks' time, I believe, on the new track in Winston-Salem, North Carolina. A week after that, he's going back to BU, to the bouncy castle there, to possibly run another mile at the last chance meet. But there is a rumor floating around, Shano, that this weekend he is going to run a time trial. Now, I had heard originally that it may have been over 1,200 meters. I did hear from a source that it could be over a mile, and that mile would be paced at 3 minutes and 46 second pace. When I say that, what jumps to mind for you?
I mean, if it was anyone else, you'd sort of let out an exasperated sort of yelp. But I mean, would anything shock you anymore?
No,
He's an alien.
it actually wouldn't. And that's where I'm at right now, because every time I've thought surely we're going to get to a position where things begin to slow down, you cannot, I mean, at some point it's, without goes without saying, you cannot run a PR and just, shatter expectations by so much every single time. But in this particular occasion, man, it wouldn't surprise me either if, maybe not 346, but certainly when you look at what he did in that particular race, coming off the plane, only 3 days, sometimes that can actually help you. Like I've, had experience, been fortunate enough to like travel for business, long distance. I do find that sometimes you feel okay in like those first 2 to 3 days, and it's actually afterwards you start feeling a bit rude. You probably felt that when you traveled to the US for the first time, right?
Oh, terrible, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So maybe that kind of helped them in that first race, but definitely a little bit more time to acclimatize, more friendly running conditions. Who knows? But this is going to be an exciting one, and it's even more exciting because it's only come through as a rumor, so we don't actually know if it's the case. I did a little bit of diving. There is a meet on that track this week, and there are invitational mile races and other races, but I didn't see his name on the start list. Who knows what the deal is there, but yeah, we're going to find out.
I mean, one thing I hope is they stop fixating on age group records, because that performance shows. I mean, he's now the 10th or 11th fastest guy in history over the mile.
Right.
He's streets ahead of all of those other guys, including Jakob, at the same age. So it's like, I don't think he has anything to prove. He doesn't. In fact, I can say it categorically. He has nothing to prove in terms of who is the most prodigious talent. It's him. And then just the biggest thing is to keep developing. If I'm him and his dad and Craig Kirkwood, I just want to keep. And the other thing I thought too is, I don't want to put down Myers, but Myers is great. But Sam Ruthe, the way he runs, like he looked like an Al Garouge or a John Walker or a Coe. He just bossed that guy, and I saw he left out any reference to it, that Peter Fisk, put an Instagram post about running 350 national record en route, and he didn't mention how the fact a 16-year-old beat him, and he can be forgiven for that. But it's like he bossed the guy. The guy's a class runner. Like, he's the Belgian record holder. Yeah. And he's a class runner, and it's not just the times.
It's 347 outdoors, right?
Is it? I think so, yeah.
Yeah, 143 and 347 outdoors.
Yeah, I think I saw that. So, the way the manner and the calmness on the start line, and it's awesome. It's so fun to watch.
So here's one for you. If you are Cole Hocker sitting here today, obviously you are, especially after Millrose, we'll talk about that in a second, you're like the hottest, middle distance runner on the planet, clearly Olympic champion, 327.65 Olympic record, and you're also the world 5,000 meter champion. You have to go in and face this kid in 2 weeks' time. How good are you feeling about that one? I mean, Hocker is a class act, but dude, this is a race where just, I would put it this way. I feel like certainly Sam Ruthe has got absolutely nothing to lose, whereas Cole Hocker has got a lot to lose. Well, maybe not a lot, but he's got something to lose, right? He's going up against a 16-year-old as, the defending Olympic champion. He's the preeminent miler in the United States at the moment, et cetera, et cetera. How would you be feeling if you were Cole Hocker now, knowing that you've got to go in against this guy? You've also talked up potentially going after that American indoor record, maybe getting close to the mile record. I don't know how good I'd be feeling if I was him. And that's crazy to say, but with the role that Sam is on at the moment, man.
Well, Cole Hocker hasn't won a lot of big races.
No.
When we had our prediction about what he'd run in that 2 mile, you got there, and kudos to you. I was right about the time being slow. You got there on Cole. Now, he hasn't won a lot of big races outside his Olympic title and his world title. I mean, that's the other ones you want to win, so that's not a disparaging comment.
No.
And Cole Hocker often won't be in a lot better shape than the time that Sam Ruthe run at Boston. And furthermore, those other top pros didn't run, including Kessler, a lot quicker than Sam Ruthe did. So
No.
on the face of it, I mean, it could be another. And I know Snell was a little bit past his best when this happened, but when he went to the States in '65, it was only the year after he won the Olympics, and Jim Ryan tailed him and ran 3:55, right?
Yeah.
So it's not as ludicrous as it sounds on the face of it. Yeah, I think he would be worried about losing to him. I don't know if Cole Hocker worries. I mean, out of all those top pros, the older guys, I think he's a pretty irreverent dude. I don't think he obviously wouldn't want it to happen, but it's a testament to how good Sam Ruthe is. I don't think Cole Hocker's sitting there wherever he lives in the States worrying about it. He just sort of gets on with it, which is what makes him awesome. The same way he didn't break down in tears when he got bundled unceremoniously out of the world champs in the 1500s. So, I think he'll be fine about it. But, absolutely, Sam could beat him.
No, I agree. I don't think he's worried, but he's only human at the end of the day, man. And
100%.
We had that discussion. It was one of the mailbag questions. Will Cole Hocker ever win like a major 1,500 mile race again? I don't know.
The way he prepares as well, like you talked about it, how he's more old school in terms of how he periodizes his training. And the 2 mile performance, particularly the win against all his peers, was a lot more impressive than the 4:52.9. So perhaps he's not, and he was pretty rubbish in Grand Slam in the 800. Remember he ran 150 or something like that so he's clearly got that old school periodization. So maybe he isn't in tip top shape for the mile right now.
Yeah.
Tell you who is though, Sam Ruthe.
I know. Yeah. All right. All will be revealed. So we're going to find out this Saturday, or I believe Sunday. I think it's either Saturday or Sunday. What is going to go down in Winston-Salem, North Carolina? Will we see another incredible performance? Is it a time trial of some description? Does he actually show up? Who knows? But I mean, I could have actually just asked either Craig or Ben, but I thought I'd just throw that out there as some kind of, big expose revealed on the Track Stitch podcast. Shano, Millrose happened. Of course, some big stories out of there. We can just run through some of these events really quickly. We just talked about Hocker getting the win in that 2 mile, a very big win for him, because you're right, outside of these major events, he hasn't actually won a lot of big races. I made the prediction that I thought he would win based on just his comments before. I think he was hurt by not winning last year against Fisher, and he was extremely motivated to do it. I'll tell you who did surprise me though, Josh Kerr. I didn't think that Kerr would be. I know that might sound a bit crazy, but I just had this feeling that he maybe wouldn't be as competitive as he was in that one. I thought Ethan Strand may have run a little bit better than he did. Parker Wolf ran superbly, and if he didn't get himself into a bit of a mess early in the race, he could have even knocked off Kerr, so that was a good performance from him. Anything else in that 2 mile that you saw?
Parker Wolf is a class act. I had identified him along with Blanks a while ago, but the Parker Wolf is more to New Zealand fans of the podcast will know what I'm talking about. Parker Wolf actually, and American fans, it's more your Adrian Blinko versus Blanks is sort of your Hamish Thorpe from the late 90s, and he's got a bit more of that whippy African-esque kind of pep in his step, and he's got a very short torso and long legs for a little guy, and he's got that beautiful raking stride. I think
Do you know who he reminds me of? Well, I say this name.
Gebre
Selassie, the big, like the keg chest, and the
Parker Wolf is class, if you ask me.
He is.
So
he
doesn't surprise me.
He was 11th at World Cross as a 22-year-old. I mean, pretty incredible there. So that was an awesome race in the 2 mile. On to the mile, Cam Myers. Was this his biggest win ever? I think it probably was, right? 3:47.57 to win indoors. And he just outlasted those guys. Nagoose, obviously Kessler, coming off that indoor 2K world record. I thought he looked excellent.
Yeah, he was class.
Yeah.
I thought Kessler was mildly disappointing.
Yeah, I thought so too. I was waiting for him to pounce, but I think he made a few. I noticed he made a few dumb moves throughout the races. These races now, like the way that they're run so close to the threshold all the time, it's become such a telltale sign for me. If guys have to make moves to reposition themselves where they're using little spurts of energy, I almost always make like a little mental note of like, okay, so-and-so's made a spurt here, because it really damages them in the finish with the level of the racing now versus the guys that can run smooth all the way through. So I noticed Kessler make a few moves there. Maybe, I think the Goose, he ran 3:46 at that meet last year. He broke the world record. That was before Jakob went and broke it. But I think he's in a better place just running 3:48 here. And I honestly hope he doesn't run that much more indoors, because I don't think he needs to.
Yes.
Yeah. 800 meters. Hey, this is one of our favorite guys that we text about all the time. A mercurial figure. The mercurial figure of Colin Salmon gets the win, 144.70, takes care of Brazier in this race, and Hoppel, who just looked kind of, you hate to say it, they did look old and a little bit disinterested in this one. But he's an interesting guy, isn't he, Salmon? Like, so good over cross country. He's really good over 800. He made the US final last year. How's this guy never been able to put it together over 1500? It's crazy.
Maybe he will. Maybe he will.
Yeah.
I'll tell you one thing I liked about that performance too, is at a slightly quicker clip, he looked a bit better. He looked a bit more. He looks very straggly when he's sort of cruising speed, and maybe there's something in that as to why he's not as good over 1500.
He's, I've watched him at the last two NCAA championships. He got fourth in 24. Was really, I think he made the final last year in 25, but he was right at the back of the field. I just think he's a guy that, to your point, he does not do well with pace changes, and he is a smaller frame. And if he gets himself in a bad position, he just doesn't have kind of like that power like a Cole Hocker, who we've seen get himself into trouble seemingly in almost every race. And he almost got himself in trouble in that 2 mile too. We didn't mention that one. I thought he'd totally stuffed that up for a second there. But yeah, Salmon just doesn't seem to have that power, but he's just putting it together over 800. That's a very good win for him, 144.70. And yeah, new PR and a new world, no, obviously not a world lead because we had a world record this year, but definitely a great performance from him. Looked in house in the 600, 114.15. They were kind of making a big deal of it on the telecast. Lewis Johnson pointing out that
what did Hoey run
in the 600?
Yeah,
112.83. So 1.3 seconds off. I thought Lutkenhouse looked really good, but it wasn't surprising to me. He's run 142 too, right? He's only a clip slower than Josh Hoey, and I think it's probably par for the course, considering we know that Josh was really targeting this indoor season to run fast, and he has done so. But they
what he looked, as I think one of the Johnson brothers pointed out, he looked good doing it, and he made he ran a bit goofy in terms of running extra distance. But when he came past, I watched the Olympic trials. I haven't followed him a lot. And when that last straight, he looked a bit like Sam Ruthe. He looked superb, like his form. He looked like he just walked away from them.
Yeah.
So it wasn't an all-out effort. The manner he did it, to me, was arguably more suggestive of his potential or real level than just the big. When Hoey ran his, I mean, he was throwing the proverbial at it, wasn't he? Whereas,
exactly.
And fair enough, he ran 112, so you can't take anything away from him. But yeah, I thought he looked very controlled and classy. Yeah,
I think I'm really impressed. My gut feeling, and I don't know too much about his coach or their setup, but just the way that he talks and about the training. And I have watched a little bit of his training on YouTube. I watched one particular workout. I think they are just very, very clever there, and I think they're doing the right thing. They're still training him as if he's a 16-year-old, right? So even though he's a 142.2 runner, which is an amazing performance for a senior athlete, right? They're not training him as a senior athlete yet. They're just doing a really good job holding him back. He's obviously, the taps are on with respect to his physiology and all the endocrinological, I don't even know if that's the right word, but all the drivers that are happening there, the testosterone, the hormones, etc. They're all on, but I think they're doing a really good job of just of tempering him and holding him back in a good way. So I'm very impressed. Not that my opinion counts for anything, but yeah, I just think his ceiling right now is really, really good, and I think his coach is excellent. Onto the women's side, Nikki Hiltz wins the mile there, the Wanamaker mile on the women's side. Jess Hull, do you make much of kind of the start to the indoor season for her? She looked really poor in that 3K.
Well, you said to me in the notes for that you so diligently put together, you thought it was, not great. I mean, it wasn't, but it was better than the 3K. And correct me if I'm wrong, but she was also pretty ordinary early on indoor last year, and she still got a medal at World Champs and ran at a somewhat comparable level to she ran at the Olympics, a bit slower, but everyone was a bit slower than the Olympics. It wasn't the Olympic year; it was the year after the Olympics. So, if she hadn't run this mile, I would have said. I mean, Sinclair Johnson, who's a good athlete, ran 4:24 and got smoked by all of them. So I thought it was definitely a big step in the right direction, and it shows she's human as well.
No, I agree. Yeah, and again, I think that after Grand Slam, those athletes that ran Grand Slam track last year, and obviously Jess Hull was one of them, alongside Nagoose and Kerr and Hock and those guys, and Grant Fisher, most famous. I think a lot of them kind of got a little bit of a reality check with respect to this concept of being in great form indoors, being in great form April, May, and then carrying it all the way through. So, yeah, she definitely
Nikki Hiltz is a very dangerous athlete in a 3:54 to 4 minute race.
Yeah,
she's got good elasticity in her stride, and she's good at sitting on people and coming off the bend. She's won a ton of US titles, and she's a very good athlete. She's not so good when it is really electric pace and she has to hold on. It nullifies some of that advantage. So her coming over the top of Hull in a 4:20 race doesn't shock me that much. She's dangerous in that time. I think even when Hull's at her best, if it was a 2:10, 2:07, 2:08 pace at 800, I think I'd take Nikki Hiltz even when she's in maybe not 350 shape, but even the shape she was in last year. I think Hiltz could deal to her.
Yeah, no, I agree. The other events on for the women, the 1,000 meters, that was completely ruined by the pacing. That totally ruined that race. I don't understand that. I mean, there was one thing in that 2 mile. What was the guy? Benjamin Allen, I think his name is Allen. I thought he did an amazing job. So shout out to him. I'm sure he's a fan of the podcast. Did an amazing job in that one. Obviously, it was set up to go a bit faster. They had light guidance. Yes. It wasn't like proper wave light. It was just sort of like a red. It almost seemed like someone was holding a torch from the rafters and shining it down on the rail. But yeah, he did an amazing job by, even though the pace was fast, he didn't just run with the blinders on. He, when he realized he was a little bit ahead, he sank back. Victoria Basong, who's a good 800 meter runner in her own right, did the complete opposite in that 1K and just ruined it. That was pretty non-eventful.
Tell you who just in that race, I tell you who's going to be a force is Maggie Condon. She ran a 2 flat and 4. I can't remember what the mile. I saw a headline. Didn't watch I watched some highlights. Maybe the last lap of one of the whatever's the second of that double.
Yeah,
and I think she's got good technique and is strong. She used to be a good 400 meter runner, so I think she's going to come on in the next 2 years for LA. She'll be a good runner.
That's a good prediction. Yeah, I was just trying to think of who was the other American 800, 1500 runner of that era that previously that made so many teams. It was a very similar runner. Also, brown hair, ponytail. Someone will
What
know.
Distance?
800, 1500.
Shannon Rowbury?
No, but about the same era. Maybe a little bit after Rowbury. More an 800 girl.
I know who you're talking about. Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, she's...
And also Jenny Simpson. She's a little bit... Reminds me of Jenny Simpson. She could have good potential over 1,500 metres championship-wise too, especially when Faith Kipyegon...
Yes.
Finally moves on and we don't have these mega fast races again. The 600 though, that one, I know you're a big fan of Rujan Willis. She wins that 600 there, 124 point. So an excellent performance from her. that didn't really stand out to me. Man, we've got a kind of a tale of two other American 800-meter runners.
Why did you? Why? Yeah, I'm a fan of her to the extent I think she gets like she had a lot of pressure. She looks like a nice person, and I think she gets a lot out of what I think is only at the elite level, just an acceptable level of talent. I think she's a good performer when it matters, and mentally, I think she's good. She's a winner. Is what I mean. Yeah. One World Juniors, one NCAA, one US Outdoors.
Yes.
So she's your kind of old school, pure 800-meter runner. She's not really great over 400. I imagine she'd be pretty hopeless over 1500, but she's figured it out. I thought it was getting a bit short for her. I think it was a pretty good run. Juliet Whittaker's another similar athlete, and she sort of handled her. I know that Juliet Whittaker's been either injured or sick or whatever, but yeah, no, I thought it. Why do you think it wasn't?
No, I didn't. Out? No, it wasn't. I thought it wasn't surprising, and I thought it was. That's what I meant. I didn't mean that it was not a standout performance. 1:24.87. I think it's a good time. Again, it's not
pretty good,
mega outstanding, but considering as well, she seems really grounded. I mean, I don't know if you saw the interview afterwards where she's like, man, I can't miss any more days at Stanford, otherwise I won't graduate. So basically this is my indoor season being cut short. And I was like, man, that good for you. Like that's exactly the way it should be. So that was awesome. But again, I was just saying a tale of two other American 800-meter runners, one at the beginning of their career and one at the end. We could start with RJ Wilson, a favorite of yours over the years, Shane. You're a big fan of RJ.
She's a legend.
And to be fair, I'm a fan of RJ's too, because when I was at Addy, I did work with her a little bit on the track and field products. Super, super nice. But that was a bit, that was not a good performance from her. Maybe it's time to,
time to hang them up.
Could be.
Well, I mean, you could accuse us of being harsh, and we're just a couple of bloody talking heads, so who gives a shit what we think? But, we enjoy doing this and it's fun. And if it was just one outlier, I'd say, that you can't, that's just ridiculous, just sit in your armchair and be like critical of someone who's had the career she's had. But she's been around for a long, long, long time, and she has been going downhill consistently now for 2 or 3 or 4 years. So at some point that can't be fun. I mean, how many times has she won Millrose? Over 800. It can't be a lot of fun running at that level. But it was, to me though, it wasn't great, but you could sort of see it happening, and it almost needs to happen sometimes for people. She clearly just loves it. She perhaps loves the training. She loves the camaraderie. Maybe she doesn't know what else to do with her time. So whatever. But Michaela Rose was a lot more disappointing to me. And I know Let's Run had kind of really trumpeted her as the next big thing. And I've never been convinced, because I think she's a weaker, less talented Johnny Gray, and it's the way she runs. And she's just got no strength at all. Like, it's one of those athletes who, at 400, she just looks absolutely impervious to. She looks so good, and then at 500 or 550, it's like the tap's been turned off. And so she's clearly talented. There's no doubt about that. And is it the end of the road? Absolutely not. Because what do they say on Let's Run? Talent doesn't go away. Their favorite motto. One of those guys is and it's true, right? But there's
Form
something
is temporary, talent is
class is permanent. I think their one is actually like talent doesn't go away, and they always bang on about it. Once someone like who's been like Andrew Wheating ran a 150 or something after, he's like, he's coming back. But no, I think to run 34.7 on the last 200 of a 600, I mean, we've got to ask some real questions about what's going on there, especially when Rasheen Willis and Whittaker, I would say Michaela Rose is more talented than those two, the way she moves.
You'd have to think so. I mean, she ran 158.37 and 24, 158.15 last year. However, both performances in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, where she went to school at LSU. But man, I mean, that was a real, pardon my French here, what the fuck is happening here moment. I was just watching that like, you've got to be kidding me. These were her splits. You just mentioned her last split. Her first one, 26.26 out of the gate, then a 28.34, so over 2 seconds slower, and then capitulating to 34.6. So like across the 200s, 2 second differential, and then a 6 second differential. Like honestly, it looked, for someone that's now a pro athlete, right? You're like, man, that is really concerning that you don't know how to. And if you're not in shape, to run that fast, then why are you going out at basically
the only thing I can
53.5
think,
pace?
the only thing I can think of is she had low iron, or there's some problem there. Something's gone really wrong. Yeah.
Anyway, we digress. That was a bit of a shame, but anyway, a great meet at Millrose. I don't think it was one of the all-time best Millrose meets, but certainly, plenty of action there. There were great fields, and yeah. A really good fortnight of racing on the East Coast there. And of course, we've got Sound running down in North Carolina in a couple of weeks' time. I think US indoors, they must be coming up soon too. They're over in New York this year. Moving forwards, time to challenge ourselves, Shano. We're back on the quiz challenge. The current standing, I believe, is 1-1. I took the defeat 2 weeks ago. You got some questions for me today?
It's very hard to set. Very hard to set fair and even questions. So it's more just fun.
Of course it is.
Okay.
Of course it is.
Okay. So I've got my first one for you. Okay.
Right.
Are
we going 1-1, or you want to go 3?
Let's just rattle them and then get them through, get into the group. I've only got 2 questions, but my second questions, in fact, both of them have got like at least 2 limbs to them. I think you're going to get these, but it's just sort of a chance to sort of peddle your wares in public.
Yeah.
Okay, so what is the highest finish at World Cross Country? None of this short race nonsense, but it includes the period. Includes the period they had the short race. So proper World Cross, the long race, we'll call it. What is the highest ever finish at World Cross Country by a world indoor 1500 meter champion? And you get bonus for getting the athlete, and you get another bonus for getting the place, and if you get the year, I'll be incredibly impressed.
Oh my God, this is super hard.
But wait a second. But the first limb is the actual question. So the other ones are sort of like your bonus points.
So a world indoor 1500 meter champion. Okay, well, and
if I do say so myself, this is a fabulous question.
It is a fabulous question. I'm pretty sure that this guy won a world indoor 1500 meter title. Am I sure? I'm just going to tell you who was on my mind. Haile Gebrselassie.
Yes, very well done.
Yeah. And what the highest finish? Geb never won. Did Geb win World Cross? No, he wouldn't have won World Cross. But I'm thinking back to, I'm going to say, this is the one that I remember the most. Durham 95. And I'm going to say that Geb finished 4th.
I thought his best finish was Durham 95, and he was 5th. It turns out he was 3rd in 1994. So you weren't far off.
I'm quite happy with that one, actually.
That's a very, very good.
That was a great question, because the most difficult element is picking up that Gebrselassie was actually a world indoor 1500 meter champion. Okay.
Yeah. 1500 3K double as well.
That's right. All right. Should I hit you? I'll hit you with a question before we go on to the next one.
Okay.
Or you hit me the next one. Okay. Right. In 1977, who beat Edward Moses, which marked the last time that he would lose before embarking on his 9-year, 9-month, and 9-day win streak? And I'll give you a hint and read into this one. It was in Berlin. So who was the man that beat him over the 400 hurdles before he embarked on this historic win streak?
Was it Harold Schmidt?
It was Harold Schmidt. That was a pretty good clue, the Berlin. Yeah, obviously.
Yeah, I actually didn't.
I think you might have known that one anyway.
But yeah, I did. Yeah.
I think you would have known that one. There weren't too many people that beat Harold Schmidt, and I'm trying to think of who actually ended the streak. That's a good one. Do you know who ended the streak?
Here's another question for you.
Yeah.
Who would you say that Femke Bols has a greater or lesser chance of doing better than Harold Schmidt proportionately in the women's 800.
Oh, well,
This wasn't one of my questions.
No.
What did he run? He ran 144.9, was it?
Yeah, he ran under 145, and this was in the era when the world record was. It might have been Fiascanaro at just under 144. So he ran within. He was at 143.9 maybe.
Fiascanaro was 143.7, I believe.
Oh, sorry, 143. I meant one. I thought it was either 143.9, but if you say 143.7, I'm not going to go against you there.
Pretty sure. Yeah.
Hold on. So we just modern technology.
143.5 was on Terrana the first time.
Fiascanaro.
143.7.
Oh goodness!
I haven't looked it up.
143.7. I think you might be right too. Marcelo, gosh, he was a classic looking character too. 1973, he broke that world record. Just a meaty character too. And his world record was 143.7. So Schmid was within, I'm pretty sure he was within, let's say a second of that. Yeah. So yeah, I think the answer is clearly him, because Bol would have to, basically run 154.5 outdoors.
I think there might be a dissenting voice on the Court of Appeal bench though from Rick James.
Yeah, that's right. Well, he can dial in and plead his case next time. Okay. Next question. Right. So we're pretty even on that one, because I did get Ged.
Okay. You did. Okay. So next question. Is it my turn or yours? Because it was me, you. Okay. I've only got two.
Okay.
So 10 men in history have run faster than Sam Ruthe in the indoor mile.
Yes.
How many of those 10 men have won outdoor world or Olympic medals in the 1500?
Okay. Well, I know that LG has. I know that Kerr has. I know that Jared Nagoose has. Yep. And they've all definitely run faster than him. And the good thing we know is that a lot of these times run recent history, because I think it was prior to 2019, Sam would have been the second fastest time in history. Yomef Kajelka, has he won? Oh, he's definitely won a world or Olympic medal, so he's there.
Wait a second, I said in the 1500.
Oh, in the 1500. Okay, sorry, cross that off.
That's where I was thinking I might trip you up, but because I initially thought he was a medal. Yeah, no.
Okay, so LG for sure, Josh Kerr, Jared Nagoose, Jakob Ingebrigtsen, and I think there's 6 other guys. Okay, Kajelka's one of them.
I'm just going into that screen.
Ethan Strand is one of them, I think. Maybe Gary Martin is one of them. Yeah, because I think he ran
very, very good.
82, and he has not.
There's only 2 other athletes you haven't mentioned.
Yeah, Hobbs Kessler. He hasn't got a Olympic or world medal, and then I don't know the other one, but I'm going to guess that if I don't know it, this person hasn't got an Olympic medal over 1500.
There's actually 2 more you haven't mentioned, unless I've missed. Perhaps I've missed.
Yeah.
You saying
Okay.
So the other
I'm just going to say it's 4. So the four men that have run faster than him that have got Olympic medals are Jakob.
You were right.
LG.
You were right. Well done. The other 2 names on that list were Azzedine Habs and Nico Young.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, but no, very well done. It's 4. Yeah.
Cool. Perfect.
Yeah.
2 for 2. All right. Let's see if we can do the clean slate here. Oslo 1980. When Sebastian Coe first broke the 1,000 meter world record, he broke it twice. This was the first time, the 2:13 performance. Who was the man that he took the record from?
Oh, geez, that is a good question. So thought you could ask me what he ran in there, and I was going to tell you 2:13, and I thought I was going to walk out of here and job done off to the pub for the afternoon. Okay, so Coe broke the 1,000-meter world record. And when was it? 1980?
1980. Whose record did he break?
I know who it was.
Who?
It was Rick Walhooter.
Correct.
Yes.
Nice job. Rick Walhooter. Yeah, he's Rick So I actually saw Rick Walhooter maybe 4 or 5 years ago.
What a great name, by the way. Rick
awesome.
Walhooter.
Portland Track Festival. Clayton Murphy was there, and they were talking about potentially setting up a US 1,000 meter record attempt. And Rick Walhooter was there, kind of as an honorary guest. Just some of these guys.
You can't not amount to something in your life if you're called Rick Walhooter.
That's a great name. But some of these guys, when they get older, they just look like they could step out on the track at any time and still run like a.
Like remember when what's his name? Joachim Cruz came out to New Zealand.
Joachim Cruz,
and he did those drills. He was like 45 or something.
Yeah, exactly. Walhooter looked the same, and he was in his late 50s, 60s, just looked like he'd get out there and run a 2:15K on his ear. Murphy didn't get close that night either, by the way, just showing how good it was. 2:13.9 was that time that Coe had to beat. And I thought we were going to do 3, so I've got one more.
Do you know who else ran 2:13 for a K? I'll give you a clue. He tried to get you to buy a car stereo for him in London and give you the money afterwards.
His name was Kenneth Kimwitich. True story. So I went 2004. I ran in a meet in Greece in Patras, beautiful place on the western coast, and I stayed in the room with this guy, Kenneth Kimwitich. His big claim. This guy ran 1:43 and also 2:13 for a K.
2:13.56.
Yeah, and do you know what else he was famous for? He took out the Com Games '98 final in like 48.6. He set it up for Kimitai to win. They wanted to kill I think it was Johan Botha. It was Johan Botha was the South African guy who won the world indoor title in 97, and he'd beaten Kipketer. They were worried about him. And this guy asked me, he goes, he's like, Jason, you live in Germany, huh? And I'm like, yeah. And he's like, do you think you could give me one of these? He opens up his bag and he had an Aldi, which is, one of the supermarket chains. He had an Aldi pamphlet in it. It was a car stereo. He's like, you'll buy and give to Marion, who was Ricky Sims from Pace Sports. That was his girlfriend at the time, now wife. He's like, you give to Marion and she give to me and then I give you the money. I was like, yeah, mate, sure, okay. I never did get the car stereo for poor old for Kenneth. That's true. And okay, do you want to have the last bonus question here?
Yeah, go for it.
Okay, I'll just hit you since we've got some time. Which female track athlete holds the record for the most Olympic medals without a gold? And this athlete has 3 silver and 6 bronzes across 5 Olympic Games. Somebody else that I have a story with. Ooh.
God.
I thought that last bit I thought would give it away. Across 5 Olympic Games, 3 silver, 6 bronze, but not a gold.
Merlinotti.
Correct.
Yeah.
Look at you. This is why we are the #1 track and field podcast for old school trivia and nostalgia on the internet. Guaranteed. I guarantee we are the best at that. Maybe not the best.
We just got no lives and we love letsrun.com and track and field. And why wouldn't you?
Exactly. Okay. Shane, have you got a few minutes left? We thought we talked about this the other day. We'd have a debut a new segment.
Fire Up Corner,
where we just get fired up about something. Just let something or somebody have it. Our buddy Kerr will love this. One of the most fired up individuals of all time.
That's just Kerr's always fired up.
He's cooled down a little bit, but he's still a fired up individual, so he'll love this. Have you got anything to fire up today about in the Fire Up Corner?
A volcano, by definition, can't be cool. It's always just a volcano.
Yeah.
I'll fire up about Grand Slam. I'm actually going to give some massive props to Sebi, because I sort of run hot and cold on Sebi. Sometimes I love him. Sometimes I'm like, he's playing the game. Like the fact he was in what did he call Lamine Diak, a spiritual leader or something? And about a week later, he got caught embezzling all that money. So it was a bit like, I know you've got to say these things, Sebi, but no, props to him, because he's come out and taken a hard line and said, no way, notwithstanding all this sort of insolvency, like technical insolvency sort of jangling around the operation to keep it afloat and all this. He's come out and said, no way. You are not going to go out there and tout these athletes and cause them more pain, get their hopes up and get them to commit and stuff up World Athletics' program for the year, because that's what they did.
Yes.
And not pay them when you haven't even paid them from last year. It's for me, it was like I'm not as passionate about it as you. And Michael Johnson was, like, for all of us, a childhood hero. So I don't like hating on Michael Johnson, but he had a vision and he tried to do something. So I have. It's like in the startup space that I have a bit of involvement with my work. I take my hat off that he tried to do something cool. He failed, and he but more than that, he's kind of in a very egotistical, shameless way tried to save face, and it's been almost insulting. But I'm very glad that Seb Coe has come out and said, absolutely not, you're not doing that. You're going to sort these guys out. How on God's earth are going to do that? If what has been reported, if there's a modicum of truth to that. But yeah, good on old Sebi. And I was fired up when I saw they were coming out, but I'm giving Sebi the double thumbs up, because I thought it was pretty good.
Nice.
How he came out and slammed them.
I've got one to get fired up about too. It's also involving Grand Slam track. In full disclosure, it involves one individual that, you mentioned it. We are fans of message boards of certain websites, running websites of certain repute out there on the interweb. And one particular individual that has been involved in Grand Slam track that seems to take an endless amount of shit. I just cannot get my head around it, and I think it's bullshit, and it gets me super fired up all the time. And full disclosure, I do not know Kyle Merber at all. I know who he is because of his running exploits, and obviously he was sort of the athlete director at Grand Slam track. But there is this narrative that is floating around out there that he was somehow Michael Johnson's right-hand man.
Patsy, yeah, I've seen it. I don't really read it.
And I tell you what, I'm fucking fired up about it. There you go, there's some fire. Because it's one of the most ridiculous and idiotic things that I've ever heard, that this guy was somehow complicit in any kind of scamming. First of all, I don't believe that it was scamming anywhere.
Scam them, no.
No, I think it was just like, Michael Johnson had classic, elite athlete transference of ability syndrome, where he believed that his track ability transferred over to his business ability, and he was way over his skis on this. But the fact that Kyle Merber is taking all this shit as being complicit in all of this because he was the guy that was dealing with agents, I just find to be absolutely absurd. And so even though I don't know Kyle Merber, I'm going to massively defend him on this. Anybody that thinks he was involved in this is a complete and utter idiot. They've got no idea how busy a guy like Kyle Merber is dealing with calls from agents and athletes and all these requests. And basically the way this worked is, as an athlete director, he's given a budget, right? And he's told to spend the budget. And I don't know any single person, I've dealt with a budget and managed a budget at places that I've worked too. When you get one, the first thing you don't do is go back and go, hey, can I have verification that this money is actually liquid and exists? Can you please show me? Like, mate, you'd get fired for that alone, or somebody would just tell you to piss off. So there's no way that Kyle Merber, people are like, oh, Merber was signing these athletes to these deals that didn't come to fruition, so he's part of it and he knew about it and he was collecting a salary and paycheck. That is one of the most absurd, idiotic things I've ever heard that gets me fired up. Kyle Merber had nothing to do with this. He is just as much a piece of like the collateral damage in all of it. And here's another thing too. People are going, oh, why isn't the guy spoken out and told all then if he's not part of it? I'm like, because he probably had a contract where he was paid a severance, because this whole thing wound up, I'm going to assume, with some kind of non-solicitation or non-disclosure agreement where he has to keep his mouth shut and not talk about it for a set period of time. So all you people out there that are dumping on Kyle Merber and talking shit about him and saying he was part of it, I'm going to defend the guy even though I don't even know him, and that's what's fired me up recently, Shane.
I love the fire up, and I've got a couple of points about that. first of all, I mean, that could easily have been someone like yourself who
yes,
it was very appealing to get out of the corporate world and go and do something that hopefully to dare to dream to revolutionize the sport,
totally.
work with Michael Johnson, a legend of the sport, and work, in a space that was not just the corporate grind like everyone else has to do. So very, very appealing. You did right. You don't get given that level of, you just trust that the people behind you, you can't. So imagine if Cole Merver turned around and was like, yeah, MJ, can you just show us some, he'd be like, fuck off, we're not.
Hey, MJ,
so,
can I be part of the startup, the venture capital meetings here just to make sure that the money that I'm promising to these people exists? Get the fuck out of here.
And I enjoy some message board stuff, but I really struggle like that Armstrong Lives guys are there. And the image, the thing I think of, I was buying a new car recently, as you know, and I was watching a review from the fabulous Chris Harris of Top Gear, and he was talking about the keyboard warriors, how they hate this particular car. And then he said, look, he goes, I'm not really too concerned about what people, that write these, write on these boards, because they've never driven one and they never get to drive one. I thought it was really funny. It's a bit like that. It's sort of the Will Smith's character from Wedding Crashers with the meatloaf. It's got that vibe to it. All these guys, particularly the ones who are just relentlessly like bashing away on the keyboard. And you can tell if you spend more than a minute on a day on there, which you and I do, it's the same drill from the same people. And if I was Cole Merver, I wouldn't give two shits about any of that, because it's like no one cares. Yeah.
No, I know, but it's not nice to read that stuff about yourself and people, saying that you were part of a scam and you were just as involved in it and you should have known, and how could you do this and this and this. I just don't.
But you don't want it to be,
because he's a human too. He's got feelings.
But you know what though, mate? If you put like 99 out of 100 of those people who are spitting that vitriol at Cole Merver, and they met him in a coffee shop,
of course,
that'd be kind of half an hour. What did he run, like 3:33 or 3:35? He was a pretty good runner, right?
Yeah.
And I've heard he's a good dude. And so if they saw him there, they'd probably be the sort of people who'd be like, "Oh, g'day, Kyle. My name's David. I'm a big fan." So I just nonsense.
Keyboard warrior weasels, Muppet weasels. All right, that was good. Hey, I like that. The fire up corner. I think it was a good debut. We'll have to check in with Kerr.
It's good to get a fire up off your chest. Well, if we want to bring in a real expert like Kerr, like American sports, you have the guys come on the special teams, so the punter and all that. Kerr will be the fire up specialist.
We'll have to make sure that this tick the box with enough fire. But I thought that was good. All right, Shano, you are on holiday / business in the great city of Sydney. I will leave you to it. You've got to prepare for Rose's arrival. How you feeling about that?
After 4 days of glorious solitude, you can hear a pin drop in my hotel room.
Good.
It's going to be it's going to be interesting. Readjustment period.
Nice. All right, mate. Well, enjoy your time there. I honestly,
how's Denver, Colorado? The old speaker.
Oh, mate, I'll tell you what's amazing about Denver, Colorado. Well, first of all, coming up to altitude. It's 5280 feet up here, and it's about a mile above sea level. When I first came here, first couple of days, I really struggled to adjust. Like, I felt so dizzy and disoriented. I went to the supermarket the first night, and I didn't know what I was doing. I was literally walking around like a zombie. I couldn't make decisions or any, like, massive brain fog. A couple of weeks, first week I went for a run, and real big difference in running here. But one thing I'll say is that the weather is unbelievable, especially the difference from Portland, where it's very damp, a lot of green. It's just so dry up here, and it's crazy. You can get really low temperatures, but the sun is always out, and you can just walk around in like a sweatshirt. It's crazy the differences in the cold. In Portland, when it gets to about 40 degrees Fahrenheit, which is kind of about 8 or 9 degrees Celsius, but it's that damp cold. And here it's much colder air temperature, but you just don't feel it as much. So it's good, man. I'm having a good time here.
I'm very pleased to hear it, because it's tricky, something like that. So
yeah,
here's another potential little hidden sort of gem or silver lining for you. You can now support an NBA team that doesn't just basically suck. And I'm not just talking about your Trailblazers, but I've become increasingly sort of weathered by, like you said, US Pro Sports and the attitudes of these guys. They just paid. It's not their fault. I mean, they're given the money, but the system. But what I did like about Denver, it was in that when Jokic was out, first of all, unlike LeBron at the Lakers, he would be there, and he would be in when they had those close games. I watched a lot more sport during January when I'm off work. He was in there, and he really, you could tell, cared about getting these guys across the line. He was so emotional about like what to do and pointing and talking. And I quite like Jamal Murray, and I think that a team that can still hold its own and win a few games, still win their superstars out, because that happens, is a good organisation. So maybe you've got a breath of fresh air there with the Nuggets.
No, I mean, and we're just down the road from Ball Arena. I actually just walked down there. I think I sent that picture to you and Kerr.
I'll tell you what I'll do in the next wee while. I'll come
circle.
over and we'll go watch the Nuggets play.
Yeah. No, you should. No, it's good. It's good here, man. It's a good place. And apparently it's really good weather in the summer too. Cool. So I'm looking forward to spending time in both locations. So yeah, man. No, it's good. Shout out to the great mountain state of Colorado. Doing well.
And shout out to the Joker. The Joker's the man.
Yeah, no, he's good. Even though they lost tonight, they lost to the Knicks in New York in overtime.
Knicks are good now though, because Jalen Brunson's another.
They are
sort of battle-hardened dude as well.
Yeah,
so,
they're good.
Yeah,
they're a good team.
I like them. The Knicks are good.
All right, mate.
Very good.
Well, enjoy the weekend then, and let's see if anything pops up with this race.
The emergency.
Yes, we'll do another emergency podcast if Sam Ruthe comes out and runs 3:46.
Runs 3:45. Yeah.
Oh my god! But yeah, becomes like the second fastest man in history over the indoor mile. Maybe we'll do something, but otherwise this went better than I thought. Actually, not surprisingly though, given our pedigree.
All right, mate.
Okay, mate. Enjoy the rest of the weekend there. Say hi to Rose, and for all our loyal followers, now up to maybe 70 subscribers, I believe, hitting the big time. We'll catch you all next time on the Track Stitch podcast. All right, Shano, have a good one.
Cheers, mate. See ya,
mate. Bye. Okay, JS back on the Track Stitch podcast for some instant reaction. It is Sunday, February the 8th, just after 10 a.m. here in the great state of Colorado. Super Bowl Sunday here in the US, but that was not the only major sporting event happening around the globe. Certainly not for track and field fans, as the debut 800 meters of Femke Bols, the much-anticipated debut, has just concluded at the indoor meeting in Metz, France. Let's get right into some reaction and analysis of this race. 1:59.07 for Femke Bols. She gets the win in this one. We'll talk about that in a second, what that potentially means, because this was more of a glorified time trial versus an actual legitimate race. Either way, really good performance on debut from Femke. My prediction before this one, 1:59.3. I thought she would go through 600 meters in 1:28 point something and close maybe in about 31 seconds. So let's see how well I did on that prediction there. So yeah, 1:59.07, 27.2 for the first 200 meters for Femke. Got out pretty quick. That's to be expected for somebody who's got 49 flat 400 meter speed. Maybe a little bit fast in hindsight, especially when we look at the remainder of these splits. I got her at about 57.0 through 400 meters. Now, these are all splits that were taken off the footage, so I'm sure that the meet will come out with some official splits later on, but I think these will be pretty close. 1:28.86 at 600 meters, and then, of course, 1:59.07 at the close. So these were the 200 meter splits for Femke. 27.2, 29.8, 31.8 for that third 200 meters, and a 30.2 to close. So really what sticks out to me there are the first 200 meter splits, or is the first 200 meter split and the third one. This is like exactly what I would expect from, again, a 400 meter runner moving up to the 800 meters. That first 200 meters is always going to feel incredibly easy for someone who's used to going out well under 25 seconds to go through in 27.2, and she looked incredibly easy, just floating along with that long, bouncy stride. And then the third 200 meters, this was always a challenge, even when you are an 800 meter runner, to keep the impetus going in that third 200. You know, for someone like her, again, who's run well under 50 seconds, she gets through to the bell in 57 seconds. That must feel incredibly easy. And then all of a sudden the reality sets in, hey, I've got to do another one of these. Always a little bit of, I guess you could say, equalization there of the speed. Probably a little bit of fear of, hey, if I keep this going, what's going to happen? So that pace always tends to drop. To be really good over the 800, you have to keep the impetus going in the third two. She didn't quite get it right here today, but again, on debut, it is hard to be too critical. One thing that was really positive, though, 30.2 for that final 200 meters. She fought really hard to sort of stick with those lights or get back on them, which was, I guess it was very clear during the race that she was aware of those wave light pacing lights and wanting to stick to them. That would make a lot of sense, considering I would guess that a vast majority of her training was done looking for even pace running and utilizing wave light technology there. So yeah, 27.2, 29.8, 31.8, and 30.2, the splits for Femke Bols, adding up to a Dutch national indoor record of 1:59.07. Now, away from the numbers, what did I see here? Well, first of all, I think that it's important to realize that this was kind of an easy sort of introduction for her. This was not really a race per se. When the field was announced, I believe it seemed a little bit better than what actually eventuated on the track. I think a few athletes had pulled out by the time that this race actually started. So Femke kind of had this had this race to herself and had things her own way. So not a lot of, I guess, proper race practice in here. There was no real fighting for position. She didn't have anybody around her throughout the entire race. So yeah, again, made it more like a glorified time trial. That is going to be very, very different when she steps into a bigger pro race against the likes of Keely Hodgkinson and George Underbell and Audrey Vero, all these experienced 800-meter runners, where they are all going to want the same position on the track. She's not going to be able to just have a consistent stride the entire way around. She's not going to have it all her own way, and that's going to be really interesting to see how she reacts to that one. So yeah, again, in terms of this as a prediction of her future prospects in the event, well, I think it's now clear that she can actually run a good 800 meters. It is good to run under 2, but until we see her in an actual race where there are some more of the nuances of 800 meter running, I think it's very, very difficult to say like how competitive she's actually going to be in terms of winning big races, especially when it comes to outdoors against those top women in the world. But good performance from Femke Bols here. I guess she will be very satisfied with that one. Yeah, again, she was able to utilize that long stride. I thought in looking at some of the footage of her training, this was one of the concerns for me. You know, it almost seemed like she was forcing efficiency with her stride, like having to actually force herself to run efficiently, you know, and not just kind of let it all go as she's used to doing in the 400 meters. And again, that'll be interesting to see when she actually gets into a race and she has to chop her stride a little bit and maybe move around the track and dodge people trying to, you know, take spots from her. But yeah, great performance from Femke. Elsewhere in the meet, Jan Schrib, I thought I'd just mention this one, 7:29.38, second fastest time ever by a European indoors. Always a bit of a notable performance when someone breaks 7:30 indoors, and he ended up having a nice sort of monologue with the microphone by himself after this one. 1:44.4 in the men's 800 meters. That's always that is a good performance indoors. Unfortunately, Josh Hoey running 1:42.50 sort of puts that into perspective though. But anyway, good performance there in the men's 800 meters. So that is about all I've got. Shano and I will be back on the podcast in a week's time to discuss this one more in depth. We'll also discuss the four-way wager that we had going on with Kerr and Carl Jackson, aka Rick James, and who won that contest. Hint, it was this guy. So Shano and I will be back in a week's time and plenty to talk about there, including some pretty depressing news around Jakob Ingebrigtsen and his Achilles. But that's all I've got for you today. Enjoy the Super Bowl. I don't know who I want to win. I don't know who I'm going to put some money on, probably the Seahawks, but we will see. Thanks, guys, and we'll catch you next week on the Track Stitch podcast. Peace.